Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com with us here today. We talking about the Rutgers game. We'll finish up with that before we get to some recruiting. Alec will be at the Rutgers game tonight for thehoosier.com. You can follow along the live link on thehoosier.com as well. Correct, Alec?
Yep. Yeah. No, we'll have everything up and tomorrow night, not tonight. Getting ahead of yourself there.
Yeah. Figured it was game day. Tomorrow night. What time is game time?
4. So
4
late
in the
afternoon.
So we'll just kind of fit it in between the college football championships.
Plenty of time to watch the World Cup at 10 a.m. as well.
I'm sure that was what was on everybody's mind. But, yeah,
USA
does.
People.
Hey, USA playing the Netherlands.
That's right.
Now, what do they have to do in that game?
They have to win. They're in the knockout
stage. It's a knockout stage now.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting that. Well,
if they win, they'll face the winner of Argentina and Australia.
Argentina.
That's where the great Lionel Messi.
Don't cry for me, Argentina. All right. Alec will be at Rutgers. Follow along at thehoosier.com. You have a live link and all of that to go there as well. I'm trying to think of anything else I wanted
to hear from Geo Baker.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Before we get to the recruiting talk, this was Geo Baker, no longer with Rutgers, but of course you remember him. And this is how Rutgers thinks of Indiana, though.
But looking at it from a player's perspective, right? For the guys who are returning in the Big Ten, nobody's scared of Indiana. Nobody's looking at Indiana like, oh man, we got to get ready to play Indiana, right? Because this is a team that hasn't really been in the top half of the Big Ten for the past couple of years, right? So I think you have to look at it in that sense too, where a lot of people on the outside are hyping them up, but for the people who are coming back, Indiana, for me at Rutgers, when we were playing Indiana, we knew we were going in with a win. Like that was our mindset. So
that's crazy. Think about that. Yeah, like that. We're talking about them as a preseason top 10 team, and you're right. You're saying like they don't have that intimidation factor. Yeah. They've got to earn that this year.
Did you hear that? That's how people think, though. But that's because what they used to think is when they came into Assembly Hall, it was doom. The opposing teams would come in and you'd see them taking pictures. It was a place that no one wanted to play. And it got away from that. The environment the other night was electric and like that. Last year for Purdue, it was like that. But it used to be like that all the time, Alec. And that's one of the things, in addition to Indiana being good, just made this one of those. It was like death. It was like a Death Valley.
Yeah, absolutely. And you definitely have seen this now this year. You saw it last year with especially the Big Ten games that were in there. Indiana's now done a phenomenal job staying true to holding home court and not losing many games there at home. At least with Mike Woodson, right? So, obviously it's easy for Geo Baker to say that now, and obviously he's not returning and he's not playing in the Big Ten anymore, and he's not going to have to face this Indiana team, especially with a Rutgers team that is not expected to be as good as it has been in the past. So, I mean, it's obviously that was a couple weeks ago before the season started. So I'd love to know kind of what he thinks now, especially after seeing Indiana play a couple big time games and play in a couple big time atmospheres, and kind of show that they're not, that it's not just all talk, right? I mean, Indiana still has to do a lot of work here to get to where they want to be, and they're by far not perfect. They've made a lot of mistakes in a lot of these games as well, but you can see the talent level there. You can see the most importantly, the expectation from the players, which is not what it was, a couple seasons ago, is the expectation now of going anywhere and playing anyone and expecting to win, right? And that's what Mike Woodson's brought to this team. You see that from Trace Jackson-Davis, and when you have that from, and not only Trace Jackson-Davis, but Xavier Johnson too, right? The freshmen that are brought in, Jalen Hood-Schifino, the confidence that he has, the expectation that he has of, coming from a high school career where he rarely ever lost, right? He won 2 back-to-back national championships, and he comes into Indiana now and just raises the competition level in practice every day, brings in that attitude and that expectation of, I don't come to Indiana to lose. This is a team that is supposed to win, supposed to have crowds like it did on Wednesday, supposed to have crowds like it did, every single game this season, right? And show that dominance and that fear of, if you are playing us, you're gonna lose mentality. And I think that was the one switch with Rutgers, right? I mean, Geo Baker was a large part of that Rutgers turnaround, so he has that ability to say that because he rarely lost to Indiana, right? We just talked about this before. Indiana's lost 5 straight to Rutgers, so I think there's a little bit of truth in there, but also a little tongue in cheek, considering he does not have to come back and play. This Indiana team doesn't have to play in the Big Ten this year, and there's also a lot of roster turnover within the entire Big Ten. So a lot of those players who saw Indiana, almost at its worst in the last decade, are not there anymore. And it's a lot of new faces. It's a fresh slate. And, I think Mike Woodson and this Indiana team now are not only the hunted, but they are still the hunters. And that's one of the most dangerous things about this team, because they are still trying to scratch and claw to regain some of that national prominence, that even though they have a top 10 ranking, even though they just beat North Carolina pretty soundly, they still seem to have doubters, and they still seem to have people and players that don't respect the program just because of the past 4, 5, 6 years, where obviously we know every season is different, and this Indiana team is different and is ready, I think, for pretty much every single challenge that's going to be thrown their way.
Yeah. Also, now we've got to look towards recruiting, man. There was a lot of visitors in for this North Carolina game. I mean, how many? It was like 5? Were there 5 guys in there or more?
Yeah, there were 8 total.
8 visitors. That's a lot for any time. But of course, most of those, if not virtually all, except for maybe one, were unofficials, right?
Yeah, the only official visit, obviously Indiana had their class of 2023, both of their signees, Gabe Cupps and Ja'Kai Newton there. But this was an official visit. It was Ja'Kai Newton's senior year official visit. So that was the only official visit. The rest were all unofficials. So for guys like Jalen Harrelson, Trent Sicily, Flory Badunga was there. Those are all unofficial visits. But again, they got to spend a large portion of that day with the coaches, see the shoot around, head to the game for some of the guys later that night. So the overall statement and reaction from talked to almost every single one of them, either them or the parents as well. Unbelievable reaction from that group. The atmosphere blew, I would say, every single one away. There was an excitement with everyone there. Almost, I talked to one recruit's dad yesterday, and he said, his son was smiling, ear to ear the entire game. So that was an atmosphere that I think Indiana really needed. Not that it hasn't had that, but right when you look at some of these guys were also there for Hoosier Hysteria. You now have a significant preseason visit. You also have a significant early season visit with a lot of these guys. A lot of these guys now have come back for 2 or 3 times, right? So there's extreme interest, especially with these class of 2025 kids, high class of 2025 kids, top 20, top 15 guys. And, there's now a level that has been set for a lot of these players where they go around the country now and take their visits to any other program. They're going to be comparing that to Indiana and comparing that to that environment, which everyone from the recruits to the parents were blown away by. They had expectations going in, of what it was going to be, right? A big game, a wideout. They were well aware of what was going to happen, especially with 2 historic programs. And they said that atmosphere was way beyond what they could have possibly planned for and imagined.
Well, the atmosphere is something Indiana has been able to provide even during the down years for big games because you could still get fans and students up. They just did not have the product to back it up. Now they have the product to back it up again, like it used to be, and that is what creates even more electricity in Simon Scott Assembly Hall. No matter what Hubert Davis may think about it, I wonder if his opinion has changed any now. But Flory Badunga is probably the biggest question in recruiting is him because let's be honest, most of us think that he's going to Cincinnati because of the relationship, the AAU coaching relationship. His coach in AAU, his son is an assistant at Cincinnati, and we've all thought that was going to be the case. You'll also get Mike Roberts over at Cincinnati. But, man, when he comes to an atmosphere like that, that can't be replicated in Cincinnati, period.
Yeah, and that is the biggest question, especially out of all those visitors that were there. He's been out to Indiana twice, been on official visit to Auburn, been out to Michigan, been out to Michigan State, been to Purdue, Butler a few times. He's a guy that, again, you can't replicate that environment, you can't replicate that atmosphere with the win, as you touched on. That's it's going to be interesting to see what the biggest pull there is for him, right? I still think relationships. This is a guy who's not originally from Indiana, a guy not originally from the U.S. here. So this is something that relationships mean a lot to that recruitment. There's still a lot of things behind the scenes that not even a lot of people know. A lot of question marks about which programs are going to go 2 feet in, which ones aren't. Indiana's now decided to go 2 feet in. They visited him a few times. They've been at some of his games. Obviously, been to two games himself on unofficial visits for at Indiana. So that's a recruitment that Indiana is going to continue to push in. We'll see what plays out. This is not anything that's going to really finish up here in the near future. This is a recruitment that's going to go on for quite a while. But again, you can't. It does not hurt having some of these big time atmospheres for recruits to come in and winning those games and putting in the back of their mind, right? Whenever they go anywhere else, they're going to remember that game at Indiana. And so that's going to be interesting to see kind of what wins out again in the end with Flory Badunga.
Yeah, well, hopefully that at least it went from a zero possibility to, hey, there's possibility there, right?
There's absolutely possibility, right? I mean, Indiana's not going to get extremely involved with someone if there's no possibility. We've seen them back out of recruitments even after kids got on official visits. So it's like I said, Indiana is one of those main programs involved at the moment. We'll see what happens, in 6-8 months. But again, this is not a recruitment that's going to end within the next 6-8 months. This is going to be one that continues to go on for quite a while.
We'll look forward to it, man. Look forward to the coverage tomorrow night. What are you looking forward? Let's see. This weekend, though, we also have Gabe Cupps playing in action in Indiana Saturday night, and I think that will Kyler be there for that?
Yeah, there's a couple different. Obviously, Gabe Cupps playing. That's the kind of main matchup for this weekend. They'll be playing Cathedral. Xavier Booker, talented, obviously, Cathedral squad as well. That's the nightcap. Jonathan Powell, a guy who was also at the Indiana Carolina game, 2024 4-star guard, teammates with Gabe Cupps. So he'll be there. A couple other IU targets in action as well. So basically from top to bottom, really great slate. We'll have full coverage of that on the site with Kyler as well, who does a great job getting out and evaluating a lot of these kids. So that's a full calendar. If you're in town, you definitely want to go there, and it starts, I think, at 10 or 11 and goes all the way till the night game, which is Centerville and Cathedral at 8:15, 8:30.